goes on, but then we can go upstairs.
Okay.
I can clerk, but I can clerk,
If
but
you
I
don't
need
mind,
to know.
It's just this.
Okay.
Great. Good evening. I call this meeting to order pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and as amended. As of March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. The meeting will be recorded by the local scene. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury government access channels, which are Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. Viewers can visit thelocalscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on YouTube. This evening's meeting will be broken into two parts. We're going to start with an executive session first, then we're going to come back approximately 6:30 with an open session, and at that point we'll conduct the Pledge of Allegiance open forum and our regular business. So if I may have a motion to enter into executive session, please.
I move we enter into executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapters 30A, 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, parentheses, town manager, close parentheses, and/or to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel, town manager, and that the board will adjourn the meeting upon completion of the executive session and reconvene in open session at approximately 6:30 p.m.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? This is going to be a roll call, and we have Fernando online, so we'll
Yeah,
start
he
with
is
Fernando.
online, so roll call, please.
Yeah, Fernando, aye.
Michael, I.
Brian, aye.
Cindy, aye.
Okay, great. We will adjourn to executive session and return approximately at 6:30. Thank you. The Select Board met at 6 o'clock in executive session, where we read the preamble. We're now reconvening in open session as advertised. There are some materials that are on their way here. They're not here yet. When they get here, I'll let you know. It's the slide deck will be available at the back of the room in paper copy in about 15 minutes or so, give or take. All right, terrific. So next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you to all the staff and department heads for being here this evening, for members of the public watching. We do have Fernando as well. He's remote this evening, so you do have all 5 members of the Select Board. Next is open forum. Anything from the board for open forum?
No, I think we have a pretty heavy agenda.
What's that?
We have a pretty heavy agenda.
Yep, okay. All right. I have a few things for open forum. The first is to thank the residents who attended the Mass DOT Bridge meeting this past Tuesday. Those who participated contributed valuable insight and feedback, and I was particularly impressed by the newly added project architect, Eddie Padmo de Putro, who described the bridge's intangible features in a way that I think resonated with many of us. Next, the Select Board received a letter from the Webster Island Association expressing appreciation for the safe and courteous manner in which the seawall project was undertaken. The group acknowledged Northern Construction's efforts in minimizing disruption to area residents and expressed thanks to Jack Graves, the project manager. Next, I'd like to express appreciation. Police Sergeant Chris Morey is retiring later this week. Congratulations to him in his 38-year career, and we appreciate his dedicated service to the town. I understand there'll be a formal ceremony on Friday at the police station. And finally, thank you to Representative Ken Sweezy for filing several bills in the legislature last week intended to improve summer recreational beach access for people and families. The 3 bills are as follows. House Bill 5290 requires the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife to review piping, plover, and tern guidelines on a regular basis and include public hearings in the affected municipalities. Next is House Bill 5291, which prevents the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife from restricting any beach from implementing all legal shorebird nesting mitigation tools. And finally, House Bill 5292 prevents the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife from preventing oversand vehicles because of any bird species that are not endangered or threatened. And the text of all 3 bills are on the legislature's website. Anything from the public for open forum this evening? Anything not on our agenda that's not for discussion? I don't see anybody rising. I don't see anybody's hand remote. Okay,
Brian?
great.
Fernando
So we'll
here.
move right
Can you hear
into.
me? Hey, Brian?
Oh, go right ahead, Fernando.
Yeah, I have something for open forum, but I will save it for the next meeting. Is with regards to a question that was raised by the member public as to BOT's jurisdiction over the Powder Point Bridge. I do have that information, but considering we have a heavy meeting tonight, heavy agenda, I will wait and I will hold it until the next meeting.
Okay, Fernando, thank you. Next on our agenda, the main item for this evening is a discussion pertaining to the draft fiscal 27 operating budget. This is going to be presented by Rainey Reed and Mary McKinnon. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Just going to run over some quick notes for you. First of all, there are handouts in the back of the room, I believe. Betsy's got the most recent version of the most recent updated version of one of the 4 handouts that's available to you. So the purpose of this evening's meeting is to provide the Select Board with an opportunity to weigh in with their comments and suggestions regarding the FY27 operating budget. Capital budget requests will be reviewed by the Fiscal Advisory Committee beginning next month. You'll recall that over the course of the summer, the Board met on 4 occasions between May and July to discuss our revenue projections and worked closely with the Board to develop, the FY27 budget message and articulate the Board's collective policy decisions. Those decisions were memorialized in the August 5th, 2025 FY27 budget message that was presented to each of the department heads, in which we stated that the failed override has highlighted the need to prioritize essential services and ensure that our limited resources are allocated effectively and efficiently. This will require additional sacrifices across the organization and may impact our ability to maintain the high-quality services that Duxbury residents expect. Copies of that budget message are available somewhere in the room. I don't know where, but I know they're
They're
here.
in the back, there's a table in the back.
There you go, they're in the back. With that in mind, the board identified and ranked several key priorities for the upcoming fiscal year, which are as follows. Number one, funding compulsory fixed and shared costs, including debt service, pension assessments, health insurance, property insurance, state and county assessments, Chapter 115 veterans benefits, Mass DOT required street lighting, Medicare payroll taxes, and compliance with the Clean Water Act. Number two, maintaining FY26 staffing levels in the police, fire, and highway departments. Number three, preserving core educational services while managing the budgetary impact to no more than 3% over FY26 funding levels. And number four, identifying necessary reductions across all the departments and services. To accomplish these objectives, we asked each department to prepare 2 FY27 operating budget scenarios using the following guidance. Number one, the 5A level services budget. This is a conservative budget reflecting the ability for your department to provide the same level of service to the community. This should not include any new staffing requests or additional service programs. The following parameters were given. A, for union positions, include current FY26 rates plus projected longevity and grade step increases allowed under the current contracts. For hourly calculations, we asked that they use 26.1 pay periods and not 26. B, for personnel policy employees, to include the current FY26 pay rates. C, include a 9% increase and a 16% increase in natural gas in electricity, 9% increase in electricity and 16% increase for natural gas for heating costs over FY26 budgets. And D, there is not an up to 2.5% limit per department, as it restricts the ability to illustrate a level services budget upon which we will base decisions. And then number two, the 5B, additional funding needed budget. We recognize that many important initiatives and staffing requests were not fully funded in prior years. The 5B budget is to request only critical staffing or expenses not fully funded in prior years. Sorry, I didn't mean to repeat that. We asked that the department heads enter only the incremental amounts needed. For example, if a 5A budget included $100 for equipment repair, but $1,500 was needed, the 5B budget would include a $1,400 incremental funding request. Each of the departments have submitted their requests and reviewed them with Mary and I. Meanwhile, the Finance Committee has been meeting with the department heads to review these budgets, and they will continue to move forward with their process in the days and weeks ahead. It's extremely important to note that and understand, and this is key, that the school department process and timelines are slightly different. That said, Dr. Klingeman will be presenting her proposed school department budget to the school committee on November 5th, and the school committee will vote on their budget on December 10th. Also, to add further clarity, the FY27 budget is still under construction. It is not finished, and the numbers you see tonight are not final. However, they are a strong indication of where we are currently in this process. The 5A budget. In addition to reflecting the board's key priorities as noted above, the 5A budget presented here this evening includes an overall increase of 3.67% for standard operating expenses, plus a 1.62% increase for voter-approved debt-excluded projects. Combined, there is an overall 5.29% increase in the budget. More specifically, the 5A budget includes 2 police officers, which were funded by stabilization funds at the June 16th special town meeting, 2 firefighter paramedics, also funded by stabilization funds at the June 16th special town meeting, 2 highway department employees, one who is would be a skilled laborer, and 1 equipment operator, both of which were RIFs but were vacant positions at the time, pool staffing for the aqueducts director position, an additional $100,000 increase in the facilities department for repairs and maintenance, a 10% increase in health insurance, a 9.7% increase in electricity to power our buildings, a 17% increase in natural gas serving our buildings, and a 3% placeholder for the school department since the town will not know their initial budget figures until November 5th. Further, the 5A budget allows the town to operate at only the current reduced levels of service we are now experiencing, specifically the library closed on Sundays year-round, a slowdown and a backlog of permitting and seasonal work, reduced number of select board meetings, and town hall closed to the public on Fridays. That said, it is important to note that the 5A budget will not be sustainable since financially it is designed to carry us through only the following fiscal year, which would be FY28, or through to the next fiscal year, FY28, a year in which we could see far more severe cuts, and operationally, it could result in adverse mental health impacts, i.e. burnout, on our staff who are already experiencing the effects of increased workloads because of reduced staff and fewer people to do the work. The proposed 5B budget addresses these concerns and the needs not met under the 5A budget. Mary and I will be reviewing the 5A budget shortly to discuss the impacted budget lines. How did we close the gap to get to the current 5A budget? To address the deficit, avoid severe cuts to departments, and be mindful of the impact on tax bills, a number of factors have contributed in our ability to close that gap. Those factors are listed in the 6-page spreadsheet under the 5A budget column entitled Primary Change. You will see that we have adjusted our local receipts estimates as we've done in the past. While this helps us to plan more cautiously, it may also result in lower amount of free cash, which is a source of funding for the capital program. Also, to a lesser extent, we were also able to close the deficit gap through employee attrition. Finally, if the Select Board and Fiscal Advisory Committee adopt the proposed additional fee increases at the upcoming fee hearing, this may help in lessening the gap as well. The 5B budget. The proposed Town Manager 5B budget includes departmental requests for the restoration of 4 full-time and 2 part-time positions that were subject to RIF as a result of the failed override, the addition of 7 full-time and 1 part-time position, and a variety of other critical expenses which we will explain in greater detail. Again, Mary and I will be reviewing the 5B budget to discuss the impacted budget lines. And with that, I turn it over to my friend Mary.
Go right ahead, thank you. Fernando, can you see that?
Yes, I can. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Okay, great, perfect. Thank you, Rainey, thank you, Select Board. Good evening, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to confirm that everybody has the correct handouts. This was the one-page summary worksheet that came in just a few moments ago, and that will be referenced in the slide deck. The 6-page document that Rainey was talking about that lays out the 5A alongside the 5B budget looks like this. And the last one was the local receipts schedule. So I just want to be sure that everybody has that. The slide deck is being printed right now and copies can be distributed, but all of this information will also be posted to the town's website first thing tomorrow morning. Okay?
Mary?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think we have the first one. that you
The
were
summary
talking
sheet, this one here. Betsy, did you get the select board?
I didn't, I thought that
Oh.
Nancy was giving it to the
No,
select
all right,
board.
let-
Okay, we don't
you need
have
it.
that one. You don't have it?
about. No.
You gave them the slide deck.
No intentional slight.
None taken.
No, I thought
Thanks.
Sure.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
sorry about that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, great, so I'm going to get started. So as Rainey had indicated tonight, we're here to accomplish 2 specific objectives. The first is to confirm or understand, make sure that the budget, the 5A budget that we are presenting here this evening does in fact reflect the Select Board priorities as was laid out in the budget message in our earlier discussions. And then the second part of our work here this evening will be to review the 5B budget and individual departmental requests. We do have virtually, I think, almost all, if not all, of our department heads here this evening to be able to answer any questions you may have. And then looking ahead, as Rainey had indicated, our next steps will be to await the school department's budget, which will be initially presented on, I presume it's still November 5th, correct? And then there is a school committee meeting scheduled for November 19th, where it will be discussed. And then the public hearing is scheduled for December 10th. So we will await that information. Town manager is scheduled to present a balanced budget to the select board on Monday, December 15th, that will incorporate all of the work we've done to date, as well as the ensuing work we will do over the next month and a half. As Rainey had indicated, I want to just underscore the importance that this is a work in progress. It reflects where we are today with, again, a placeholder for the school department. There are some items that are still subject to change as we are still actively working on them, and I'll talk a little bit about some of those as we go through some of these slides. So the summary sheet, this is the FY27 budget as of today, October 27th, and this is a highly summarized snapshot of that one-page summary sheet that you should all have in front of you. What you're looking at is an overall FY27 budget. Hold on a second, let me move this out of the way. Dave, does that black panel move out of the way? You can do it? Okay, great. Excellent, thank you very much. All right, so the FY27 5A budget represents an overall 5.29% increase in operating costs. However, there is a significant change in our debt service budget for the FY27 budget. We've been talking all along that the financing for the DPW facility as well as the seawall facility would be starting to come onto the tax rolls in earnest in FY27. So that is a reflection in the budget that we're going to be talking about tonight. If we held that debt exclusion aside and compared apples to apples, operating expenses to operating expenses, what you're looking at is an overall 3.67% increase without that debt exclusion being factored in. And you'll see that in the lower right-hand corner of that summary sheet that was handed out to everybody. Okay. So how did we get here? As Rainey had indicated, we had seen some cost savings through attrition as well as through some individual line items across departmental budgets. But one of the things that we took a closer look at was our local receipt estimates. And I have highlighted in green, the sheet that you have in front of you was the original sheet that was handed out with the original set of estimates. And what I've done here on this particular picture is to lay out side by side the change in those revenue estimates. So the change in those revenue estimates has increased about $383,000 since our last conversation, which was on September 8th when we took a look at these revenue estimates. You'll see the various categories, the % change, and then the far right column on this slide deck indicates the % that we are using for our estimates over prior year actuals. Now, I want to clarify something before we go too far. Local receipts, as we know, we've talked a lot about the DLS having guidance on best practices for estimating revenues with respect to local receipts, and it always is the statement that you should not estimate higher than 85% of your prior year's receipts unless there is an extenuating circumstance to guarantee that that revenue stream will materialize. However, when you use the term estimate of prior year's actual receipts, it's actually 2 prior years. So let me explain that. We're here tonight and we're here to talk about the FY27 budget, and if we took that sentence literally about estimating off of prior year actuals, then we would be expected to be looking at FY26, which is the year that we're currently in. So there are no actuals for FY26 yet. So that means that when we're looking at local receipt estimates, it's actually for the prior year, 2 years prior to what you're budgeting for. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in this second from the right column where I indicate dollar change, I do want to highlight 2 items that have been reduced, and I want to explain why. They're highlighted in blue. The first one is line 8, charges for solid waste, which is effectively our transfer station, and then line 17C, which is our beach. The reason that the estimates have been reduced over the previous conversation is that during our previous conversation, or gearing up for that previous conversation, I had included some increases in those line items. However, until the board and the Fiscal Advisory Committee hear the proposed fee changes, we cannot base our budget on an expectation that the Select Board is going to make a decision in a certain way. So I backed off on those estimates for this purpose right now, but know that we are going to be coming before the Select Board for a fee hearing in December to talk specifically about the transfer station and the beach, the cost of those permits and stickers, at which time, should the board adopt a fee increase, then we will be able to go back and revise these estimates and provide a little bit more buffer within our budget or capacity. Does that make sense? Perfect. Okay. So this is an overall snapshot of our total revenues and our total expenses. On the left-hand side, as you can see, our budget is funded by 5 primary categories that we talk about all the time: tax levy, local receipts, state aid, other available funds, and debt exclusion. Those are the revenue sources that support our operations. On the right-hand side is a summary of our categorical expenses, and they are grouped together by a UMIS category code, which I'll get into in a second. But just from a very high level, what we can see with respect to the FY27 5A budget at this time is that 4 categories of expenses represent about 82% of our budget, and all other departments represent about 13% of our budget. So what does 5A include? I know Rini had talked about a couple of items, but here's a list for you in order to itemize the changes in 5A over the FY26 budget. 5A includes 2 police officers. So those 2 police officers, as well as 2 firefighter paramedics, were added to the FY26 budget through the use of stabilization funds. Those positions are included in the 5A budget utilizing operating revenues. The FY26 budget currently had 2 highway positions that were a reduction in force. This budget restores those positions based on priorities from the Select Board. Again, there's a 3% placeholder for the school department. There is some additional funding in the pool area for the aqueducts director, and I know that Steve will be able to speak to that shortly. That was a question that had come in that we needed to answer. There are also utility increases. Just like we see our increases at home, the town is not immune to the rising costs of utilities. So the departments were provided guidance on increases to their electric rates as well, to their electric budgets as well as natural gas. And those recommendations were based on our work with the town's energy or utility manager. So the town has a relationship with a third-party entity, and we work with that company on an annual basis to take a look at our consumption as well as predictive pricing in the market. And based on that, they provide a recommendation on what we should budget for in the coming year. The 5A budget also includes a lease program for the police department for cameras and tasers, and the police chief and deputy are here this evening and can provide some more context to that. And the 5A also reflects vendor price increases as well as additional debt service. When it comes to debt service, there was not only debt excluded debt service, but there was also some additional debt service within the levy. And that included the financing of a fire breaker truck as well as some facilities improvements, both of which were voted back in FY23. So this is how long it takes for some of these things to actually materialize. What the 5A does not include is the restoration of all the other FY26 reductions in force. It does not include, again, the final budget, requested budget from the school department. It also does not include additional funding necessary to implement the beach escorting program. It does not include funding for a new program that was launched to the community for mental health assistance called Care Solace. It does not include custodial coverage or dedicated custodial coverage to the new DPW facility. You'll see that in the 5B budget, there is a request for part-time staff to assist with the new facility. And this 5A budget also does not include positions that are very much needed by some of our departments. Expenditures by category. So when we talk about putting together a budget, there is a structure that is promulgated by the Division of Local Services that we need to adhere to. It reflects the Uniform Municipal Accounting System. So when you see sheets that have information such as 100 general government, 200 public safety, 300 education, those codes and categories mean something across the Commonwealth, which is why we organize our budget in this fashion. And this is a snapshot of just the departmental operating expenses by category. The next couple of slides are just simply different slices of our data, of our budget, looking at our expenditure categories. This illustrates for you that there is a 5.29% increase or $5 million over the FY26 budget. But when looking at the operating expenses without the debt exclusion, that represents a $3.51 million increase or 3.67%. I get asked the question a lot, how do we break our budget down and stack up when we compare salaries versus expenses? So when we look at the town meeting warrant booklet, we vote on a list of departments, and under every single department, it says salaries and expenses. And what I have done here is added up the 5A FY27 budget request and shown you categorically using those UMIS category or functional area codes, how much of our budget is used to support the people who are providing the critical services. And when we look across our entire budget, we can clearly see that about 54% of our budget is dedicated to the folks who work day in and day out very hard for this community to provide high quality services. And about 46% is for all of the other stuff, the utilities and the equipment and the subscriptions and all of the other expenses that support all of the great work that these folks do. So I also get asked, and most recently we had a specific request come into the office about when we talk about how our budget is allocated. If you take $1 of our budget, or $1 of revenue that's coming in to support our budget, how is that dollar allocated across the entire organization? And this will show you the proportionate share for every single department or functional area of our organization. So for every dollar that is used to support our budget, for example, 4.79 cents goes to support the police department, 4.59 cents goes to support the fire department, 0.86 cents goes to support the Council on Aging, 8.3 cents of that $1 goes to support debt service. So those are the proportionate shares of what each department represents in our organization. So what are the primary drivers of the FY27 increase in our 5A budget? They are, not surprisingly, primarily our fixed costs. So apart from labor, the primary cost drivers in the FY27 budget include health insurance, retirement, Medicare, property insurance, and the reserve fund, which is utilized across all town departments. Those are fixed costs. And if we look specifically at things like health insurance right now is one of those items that is still in review. We know already, based on preliminary conversations with Blue Cross Blue Shield, that there will absolutely be a double-digit increase in our health insurance costs. And right now, we are budgeting for a 10% increase, which reflects $871,000 of our available capacity between all of our revenue sources. That budget, as I said, we will be looking at setting the rates for our active employees in the coming months, and there may be some modifications to the 5A budget with respect to health insurance. The retirement amount is a known amount that is set by the Plymouth County Retirement Association, or the Retirement Board, and it's set in 2-year installments. So we know that our assessment for next year, or the general fund share of the assessment, is $7.09 million, which is up 7.48%. Whenever I talk about retirement, I always want to take a pause to just remind you that the magnitude of that retirement assessment, and that only applies to folks who are enrolled in the Plymouth County retirement system. So this does not apply to teachers who are in the Mass Teachers Retirement System. But all of our retirement eligible employees who are enrolled in Plymouth County, the Plymouth County and all of the contributory retirement systems across the Commonwealth are currently in a period of catch-up in order to provide funding for the unfunded pension liability. And this has been going on for a number of years. The law says that every community needs to have that unfunded liability fully funded by 2040. However, individual retirement systems have adopted earlier funding schedules. Plymouth County, up until recently, was prepared to have, or had set their funding schedule to be fully funded by 2029. In April of last year, the Retirement Board took a look at their portfolio performance and had to make the decision to extend their funding schedule by an additional 2 years. So it's estimated at this time that Pension County Retirement, funding the unfunded liability, our obligation will be completed by 2031, at which time we should see a significant drop in that $7 million expense. Does that make sense? Okay. Medicare is a federal IRS requirement. It is 1.45% of wages paid. So as our budgets grow, as our salaries grow, so doesn't our Medicare expense. The other thing about Medicare is that this needs to be budgeted not only for general fund, salaries covered within the general fund, but it also applies to things that do not happen within the general fund, such as employees paid out of grants, or paid out of revolving funds, or paid via police details. So we have to cover the cost of that, and in some cases, those benefits are not able to be charged back to things like the revolving fund. Okay. Utilities we just talked about with the price increases from our consultant. You'll also see throughout the 5A budget that there is some pressure being placed on our departments to make sure that we have sufficient funding to maintain our buildings and grounds. So there's an additional, across all line items, primarily within the facilities department, but also in some other departmental line items, we are seeing an increased need for buildings and grounds supplies and services in the amount of $140,000. Property insurance, Nancy just presented her property insurance budget the other night to the Finance Committee and talked at length about all of the work that she does with Maya, our insurance provider, in order to make sure that we have proper coverage for all of our assets in town, but also that we are taking advantage of any credit or reward opportunities that they have to offer, as well as early payment discounts, and also looking at modifying our deductibles in order to see if we can achieve some cost savings through some modifications with our insurance carrier. So those are the primary drivers, and sometimes when you look at these things, the percentages don't always tell the story, but when you look at the order of magnitude that these fixed cost items are just over $2 million increase from the FY26 budget. So as far as health insurance, I'm not going to dive too deep into this, but I do know that our HR director was before the select board at your last meeting, having conversations about adopting health insurance rates, and I think there were a couple of questions. So I've added this in here into the slide deck for you guys to take a peek at. I think the question was, if I'm not mistaken, how much does it cost for the town to support retiree health coverage? And you can see here that I've got a breakdown between active employees as well as retired employees. And that direct out-of-pocket cost is estimated for retirees at about $2.07 million. Okay. So debt service. Debt service is another major factor within our operating budget. But when it comes to debt service, there's two types of debt. There is exempt debt and non-exempt debt. So what does that mean? Exempt debt is also known as debt exclusion. So those are the voter-approved projects where folks went to a ballot box and said that they would approve going above and beyond the limits of Prop 2.5 in order to support debt financing for capital improvements. I'm going to show you the list of the existing capital improvements in just a second. Non-exempt is debt for other items for which the town has not authorized that temporary exceedance of Prop 2.5. So those are items that are funded just like any other department would be funded, asking for their share of operating revenues in order to cover debt service. You'll see that it has increased in 27 in order to accommodate those two sets of projects that I just talked about, which was the breaker truck and the facilities improvements. Those were 3 facilities improvements over at the school department. Okay. So with respect to our debt exclusion, I know we've talked about and folks have been curious about how much have we financed or undertaken so far with respect to the DPW facility and the seawall. We can see that our exempt debt is growing and for FY27, but our total debt budget is $8.4 million, of which $7.827 is exempt debt. With respect to the DPW facility, the town has authorized $27.394 million for the cost of that project. So total construction cost, $27.3 million or $27.4. To date, we have issued $7.2 million worth of bans, and we have issued $13.8 million worth of general obligation bonds for a total of $21 million in debt financing. $6.394 million still remains authorized and unissued. With respect, and I'll dive into that in just a second. With respect to the seawall project, the town initially authorized $20 million for that project. When the results of the bids came back, it was clear that that project was not going to be as expensive as initially thought. So the town has rescinded $5 million worth of that debt authorization, bringing it down to $15 million. To date, we have issued $5 million worth of bans or bond anticipation notes and $6.4 million worth of general obligation bonds for a total of $11.485 million, leaving a balance that is unissued, authorized and unissued of $3.5 million. Now, with respect to the seawall, the town did receive a $3 million grant, and we have utilized and fully applied for reimbursement for that $3 million. I didn't check today, but last time I checked, I know we had received in hand $1.6 million of those proceeds, and the remainder had been submitted for reimbursement. So my expectation on the seawall project is that we will wait until it is fully complete, wait until we understand the total final costs, and then determine how much of that remaining $515,000 authorization we will need to close out that project. The other $3 million that is authorized and unissued will not be utilized, and we will go back to town meeting at a later date, and we will ask town meeting to rescind that authorization and essentially take it off the books.
How did the betterments play into that whole scenario?
So, good question. So with respect to the seawall, the arrangement that is in place is that 25% of the debt service will be assessed to the properties that are benefiting from the seawall in that neighborhood. We expect that those betterments will be applied to the FY27 tax bills, so not the ones that are going out this year, this January, but the ones that will be going out in the following January. They will receive betterments on their tax bills beginning in FY27, and the revenue that we receive from those betterments will offset the debt exclusion. That has been included in the budget that we're talking about tonight. Okay, but we won't know the full amount or the exact amount of the betterments until the project is complete. We have total project costs so that we can then apportion it out, just like the town did with the previous seawall project. Okay, with respect to bands, I just want to explain, in case there's some folks in the room that are not familiar with the difference between bands and general obligation bonds. So bands are temporary debt, often issued to get a project started, especially if you don't know the ultimate total cost of the project. So, for example, the town several years ago issued $2.2 million in bands for the DPW facility to start the design and engineering. And that ban was then rolled over because we did not permanently finance it, because we then came to a hard stop where we needed to go back to town meeting and have a conversation to request additional funding. So we did not issue any permanent financing for the DPW facility until we had everything lined up and that project was a go. So those bans that were issued they are scheduled to mature in April of 26. So we will do another debt issuance in April of next year where we will permanently finance those bans. The impact of that permanent financing is included in the FY27 budget that we're talking about here this evening. When you have bans outstanding, you are only obligated to pay the interest that is due on that ban and not pay down the principal until that ban has been issued and outstanding for at least 3 years. So the first 2 years is interest only, and then you either permanently finance it, or if you roll it over, you need to pay a principal pay down on a ban, okay? But the permanent financing for all but the authorized and unissued debt is included in the FY27 budget. This here is the list of projects for which the town has outstanding debt obligations. So beyond the DPW and the seawall, there are several other projects that the town has issued exempted debt or debt exclusions for. They include the police station, the crematory, the fire station, the middle school, high school, and then the seawall repairs and DPW facility. Those are the projects with exempt debt. The other projects that have debt capacity within the levy include the senior center expansion, the school facility improvements we talked about, Chandler HVAC project, the brush breaker for the fire department, and the previous phase 1 seawall repairs that happened several years ago. So that's the breakdown. So this is what's happening with our debt exclusion right now. We have we've seen this chart before, but we have a significant drop-off that is scheduled to occur at this time, given our current debt profile, a significant drop-off in our debt exclusion amounts in 2038. That is primarily the maturity of debt or the final payment for the middle school, high school. Okay, so this is where folks, when we talk about authorizing debt exclusions for the life of a project and then it goes away, this is an example of when it will go away. Okay. So that, in a nutshell, is the 5A budget. Is there anything you'd like to discuss on 5A before we move on to 5B? Or can we start by asking whether the 5A budget reflects the priorities that the Select Board has stated?
I believe Fernando had some thoughts on 5A, because I know, Fernando, you've got a hard stop in about 15 minutes or so. So I'd like to recognize you for questions.
No, I appreciate that. And so it's kind of difficult being remotely, but I have a few questions, detailed questions about 5A. But overall, I feel that the 5A budget that Mary has presented does indeed reflect the Select Board's priorities. So I'm fully supportive in the budget itself. I have to do some clarifying questions, but overall, like I said, I do feel that it reflects our priorities. Thank you.
Do you have,
Go ahead, Mike.
is this the point where we should ask questions about the 5A budget?
Yes.
You said that we were going to receive some information tonight from Steve about why the aqueducts position is in 5A.
Yep,
Could we have that?
sure. You can have any
That's why
questions
they're
you
here.
want. That's why everyone's here. You bet.
Mr. Studley?
Hey, thank you. Steve Studley, Recreation Director. That program is unique, and the way it's worded is a little deceiving in my opinion. The total revenue generated by the Percy Walker Pool is about $270,000. The Aqueducts program brought in almost $118,000 of that, which is roughly 45% of our total revenue. For multiple years, one of our full-time employees was running that program. Therefore, we were technically getting she's one of the high school swim coaches as well, a lead instructor, coordinator, almost for free, if you will. Honestly, the reason she stepped down as one of our aquatics directors was it's too much. The hours were just way too much for her to continue doing. So the reason I put that in 5A and the way I see it is, it's more, that program's vital to continue to generate that revenue. It would cost, I worked out the hourly, whether it's that individual or what it would take in part-time staff to effectively run that program. I can also say that individual is a Pied Piper of the program. So the program goes pretty much as far as she goes with us. So that number is about $28,000, which would be the increase in the part-time salary to continue to run that program. Like I said, it's semantics, but we were almost getting it for free when she was on salary as an aquatics director. That no longer happens, so therefore that's the reason for that. And in my opinion, that 45% of our total revenue is something that we need to continue. I would have other suggestions of cutting in other areas over that, which are extreme and not good. But I just feel, I looked at it when I explained it to Mary and Rainey, I said, if this was a private business and you had one part of your business that was bringing in almost $118,000 and it was going to cost you $28,000 to keep that coming in, to me it's a no-brainer and a necessity actually for us.
Amy?
Thanks, Steve. So you said it's $270,000 the pool makes in revenue. What is the cost to run the pool?
Like are you looking for the bottom line?
Yeah, the bottom line.
Like
the
net
whole-
loss,
the
if
whole
you
co-
will?
Yeah. How much?
Mary, am I
So-
safe to say,
If you flip to page, so on this set of worksheets here, if you flip to page 5. Nope, that's actually on 6. There's 634. I don't have my glasses on.
Recreation.
Pool, Percy Walker Pool. Yep, line 74, right in the middle.
This is page 5.
Yeah. So it's 292,000 plus 189 in expenses, so about 500,000.
So it costs us 292, 146, but it brings in 270. Is that correct?
yes.
This is an area I struggle in because we're digging that hole a little deeper by adding another $28,000.
I completely understand that. I guess I look at it as we'd be losing $100,000 in revenue if we didn't have that 28 to run that program.
And my only question was, just for consistency, if you, as town manager and Mary, felt comfortable putting this in the 5A versus the 5B, and why?
Yep, I did, for the reasons that, I did put it in the 5A for that exact reason that Steve said. To me, it seemed foolish not to. To leave it out there with the potential of losing theoretically $75,000 did not make sense. Plus, the idea of burning out an employee isn't a good one because we'll lose that person. And if that's the person that's the magnet bringing people in the first place, you don't want to let them go. You can avoid it.
It's a very popular program.
Yep, it is.
Were there any other questions?
Any other questions for Steve?
No, not
No.
specific questions.
No, that was
I think
just
that's
for
it.
that one, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. I have a question for you, Mary. Does the increase in the reserve fund reflect the dip, the subtraction from the special town meeting? And is that also focused on maintaining our bond rating? It was so it's a $50,000 increase, just to,
So the reserve fund is different than the stabilization fund.
okay, so what's the reserve?
So the reserve fund is basically the line item in the entire budget, so it's a $100 million budget. This is the line item that is a contingency. It is a provision of Mass General Law for all municipalities to have a reserve fund. And it is for unexpected or emergency situations. And it requires permission of the Finance Committee in order to utilize it. So, for example, when we have storm damage, and I know we've certainly experienced it, and our fiber ring went down, and we had to bring in somebody to, and it cost us, $24,000 to repair the fiber ring. We go to the reserve fund and ask the Finance Committee to utilize that line item. And that increase reflects, so the line item had previously been at about $180,000 for several years. With the FY '26 budget, we took a very undesirable reduction in that line item down to $150,000, and this is to restore it to an appropriate level for a budget of this size.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
sure. Fair enough?
That's it.
Good more?
Just for a 5A, I'm good.
Okay.
I just had one question. You had a list, or Rainey put the list of things that the 5A budget does not include, and those were things that were in this present year's budget, is that right?
No. Do you have an example?
Care Solace Program.
Oh.
Well, no, I guess custodial coverage is not, but the beach escorting program.
So I can speak to some of these, and if the department heads want to jump in, feel free.
I'm just sort of wondering about.
The Care Solace program is actually currently being funded by the Friends of the COA. Is Joe here? Okay. It's a gift from the Friends of the COA to pilot the program, but we know that the school department has had very successful results with this program, and we anticipate that this is something that the town would like to see continue, but funding for that is not in the 5A budget. With respect to beach escorting, what happened is, to the extent that the rec department or the beach ops was able to participate in additional access to the beach this year, it caused cost overruns in the beach ops line items, and we had to do year-end transfers to that department in order to cover the impact of that.
Okay.
And so we want to be forthright to let you know that that has definitely not been fully funded in the 5A budget. And with respect to the custodial coverage for the DPW facility, we are very aware that we are building a $27 million building, and we are very aware that we want to take good care of it. And we need to make sure that we have proper maintenance that is done, cleaning and other maintenance that's done on a regular basis. I know Sheila she may or may not want to get up and speak, but she has been advocating for a full-time custodian for that facility. We compromised and said, how about if we start with a part-time and see if we are able to accomplish what we need to with a part-time resource. And that right now, what's happening is in the 5A budget, in central buildings, we've had to increase the overtime line in central buildings with the expectation that the custodian who's in our town hall offices would be shared and would use overtime hours to clean that facility. But if we were able to pursue the part-time resource, then we would reduce those overtime hours out of 5A and apply it against the cost of a part-time resource, and therefore the net increase would be about $11,000, $12,000 in 5B. Sheila, do you want to add anything? Did I see her? Yeah.
Just one other detail to be transparent. In the 5A under central buildings, we did include $18,500 in expenses for cleaning and maintenance of the facility, plus the $9,000 in overtime. In the 5B, we deducted the $9,000 in overtime and put in for about $21,000 for a part-time custodian. So we're trying to figure out a way to make sure the building is cleaned with both budgets.
Thank you, Sheila.
One more question?
Go right ahead.
And it's only because I think we're going to move on
If you can just
from,
move your mic a little closer to you.
only because we're going to move on from these spreadsheets. And when we were having the conversation about the debt exclusion for the seawall and the DPW, town meeting took the surplus of money that was appropriated for the seawall and applied it towards the DPW. Where do we see that in these numbers?
You
We didn't.
You don't.
You don't?
No,
It's just a-
what you see, the change that you see is the rescission of the debt service. So when I talked earlier about the town had initially authorized $20 million in debt for the seawall, but now on my schedule, I'm showing you that it's 15 million. That's the reduction there.
All right, thank you.
And there was a smaller increase to the DPW after that special, after, it was a special town meeting.
It was, and it was
under
not
$1 million.
$994,700.
Right.
Right.
Yet all of a sudden, we think that's a small amount.
I know.
That was
I know.
impressive that you knew that off the top of your head. So,
Did you have other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. I just had a couple of points. One is I want to echo Fernando's comment. I believe the team over here and all you department heads who are sitting here with us, terrific job. This budget discussion is never easy. I sincerely appreciate all the hard work and effort and anxiety, I'm sure, that went into it. This is not what we're looking to do. We need to do a balanced budget by law, which we will do, but our discussion is going to move on now to, I think, something a little more appropriate for what we expect here in Duxbury. I'm cautiously optimistic as we move toward town meeting, what we can do with the 5B budget. I'd also like to address a bit of an elephant in the room with a 3% placeholder for the school department, and I know that you're still working through your numbers. The school department's approximately half the budget, so I want to acknowledge that wherever we go with the budget discussion, that the school department's necessarily going to be a major component in how the rest of the town balances out. So I appreciate your cooperation as we've been working through this with a placeholder. I suppose you could look at it as a 3% cap, or look at it a different way as an automatic 3% increase that other departments didn't necessarily get. But with that said, as we now turn our conversation to 5B, I think there's opportunity here to be what I would consider to be more realistic as to what the town overall, and especially the school department, is likely to need. And I know we haven't seen your numbers yet, but as we all try to figure out what's going to be best for the town, and just circling back with our request to the finance director and the town manager as a board in setting priorities and focusing on those priorities for 5A, with the assistance, the terrific assistance, frankly, of the department heads, I think we're there. Speaking for myself, but I am interested, frankly, in 5B, because I think that's where we need to go, and we'll need to explain to the town, as we did last time around, why these are necessary and appropriate increases. and prevail upon the voters to support us in that. So 5A, I think we can check it off and say, mission accomplished, unless anybody has a
Yeah, and I just
contrary
wanted,
view.
I just wanted to be clear on our, you had a specific question, is this consistent with our, priorities? Yes. So you're not gonna be surprised in March.
Thank you.
Okay.
Of me saying this is not
Good to know.
consistent with your
Right.
Excellent.
Good to know.
All
Thank
right.
you for saying that, Mike, and I think Fernando has said that as well. And
Yes, he has, yeah.
Cindy, I see nodding to my left, so unless there's anything else you need from us on 5A,
No, that's great, thank you.
That was what we needed.
okay,
Thank you.
terrific. And thanks again to all the department heads for your hard work on this.
Okay.
5B?
Yeah, do you want to start at the top?
Sure. So I'm going to run through this line by line. Hopefully you've all got a copy of the hymnal in your hands.
Yeah. Can we just clarify, explain that they're looking at this side here?
Yeah. When you look at your spreadsheet, okay, you're looking at essentially the right-hand side, okay? And we're going to be going down the,
Are there, yeah, there's, sorry.
so that's the 5B section, all right? And the column we're going to be looking at is the one highlighted in yellow. That's the town,
That's blue.
sorry. No, I was trying to point that, sorry, you're right. The heading is yellow, the column is blue.
Yeah.
And it should say FY '27 Town Manager Recommended, Article 5B at the top. So we'll go through these lines, and if anybody has any questions along the way, let me know. So for line 3, under salaries, we're including the restoration of one full-time assistant position who was RIFT, the administrative assistant in our office. Under the expense line, this is a new expense proposed, and it's for professional and technical services, in the amount of $25,000. The purpose of that is for a variety of engineering needs that we have that come up throughout the course of the year. Could be used to pay for grants. We've had a number of occasions where we've needed a few $1,000s to cover expenses, and rather than waiting till the end of the year or hitting the reserve fund or doing a transfer, we would prefer to have the $25,000 there in that line. Under line 8, in the accounting department, it is the restoration of a full-time position, the assistant town accountant position. We've been without an assistant town accountant since July 1st. It's a nightmare. It's not working well at all. In line 16, in the salaries line, it would be the restoration of a part-time position, a benefits specialist.
That was from retirement. I have a typo, I
Yeah,
apologize.
that's okay. And that person had retired, and we'd like to restore that half-time position to assist in the benefits aspect, because that person covers the benefits for both the town and the school side. In the expense line, the purpose for that $3,400 is for additional medical screening, background checks, and other onboarding costs for new hires and RIF restorations. In the IT department, you'll see a proposed increase of $47,000 for cybersecurity. Forgive me, I probably should refer to this one. Sorry.
A lot of acronyms, but.
Yes, there's a lot of
Mike's
acronyms.
available
Our
to
IT
hear.
director is here, thank
to
God, to
speak
walk
to
us
it
through them.
when we
So
get to
it's security info and event management, security operations center, and managed detection and response. Under the planning board for line 26, there was a position proposed in the amount of $89,000 for an assistant planning director, environmental planner. However, I am not recommending the inclusion of that position. Our planning director here, Matt Hines, is here if you have any questions on that. Under facilities management, line 28 and salaries, the request is for one full-time admin assistant, plus one full-time maintenance tech, plus the clothing allowance, and the additional overtime for hours and repair work, and recommending an administrative assistant and additional overtime at this time. Under line 30, in the police department salaries line, the request is for 2 additional full-time patrol positions, including their base salary and the associated reduction in overtime. Under line 31 would be ammunition and uniforms inclusive with new full-time employees. In the fire department, the addition of 2 firefighter paramedic positions. Municipal services would be the restoration of a part-time employee that was RIFT, and a mileage stipend for the assistant inspector for the use of his personal vehicle. On line 36, the salaries, $4,200. It's an increase of the hourly rate for seasonal help by $1 an hour to attract and retain seasonal staff. Of course, line 39 and 40, those are to be determined with budget presentations by the school department to be happening on November 5th. Line 41, under central building services in the salaries line, as Mary had just mentioned, we were talking about the new DPW facility. That would be to fund a part-time custodian position for the new DPW facility, 19 hours a week, and the hourly rate is there, and then that would be netted against the $9,000 in overtime savings, as Sheila had mentioned as well. Line 47 is lands and natural resources. That is to restore one FTE who was RIFT, including a $750,000 clothing allowance.
$750. You said 1,000.
Wow. Some kind of clothing down there at the DPW.
That's a great wardrobe.
I'll tell you, they are dressing fine. But no, $750, excuse me. Line 50, under DPW admin salaries, to add a position, a full-time position, which is a civil engineer position, OSHA compliance stipend as well for safety programming. Line 52, in vehicle maintenance and salaries, to restore one FTE who was RIFT, and also a $750 clothing allowance to associate with that position. Line 64, in expenses, $11,500 for maintenance and repair of the retorts. The Council on Aging, line 65, under salaries, part-time position to increase home-delivered meals manager position. And in the expense line, line 66, $29,000 for additional food supplies, the Care Solace subscription, and to restore professional development funding. Line 70 in the salaries line, additional just over $13,000 to restore the Sunday hours. Salary savings on the other positions nets this expense to $13,600. In beach operations, line 79 under the salaries line, an additional full-time position for an assistant beach ops manager, an increase in part-time staff due to beach closures and escorting coverage.
And that's it.
I think that's it. Any of the departments that you may have questions on, all those department heads are here to help field your inquiries.
Questions on 5B?
Is Fernando still here, or is he?
Fernando, I believe, is still here, yes.
7:38 p.m.
Wanna let him go
Yes, I
first
am.
so that, she has questions?
Sure, Fernando, the floor is yours if you'd like to ask any questions about 5B.
Let me get back to you on that one, just 1 second.
Okay. Cindy, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I guess a couple of questions, if we can find the right place. Anyhow, in the planning board and the decision not to include a assistant planning director, someone can address that.
Sure, I'll start, and then certainly Matt and Sheila can chime in as well. In considering that additional position, which would be an assistant town planner / environmental planner, given the choice between that or an assistant, well, not assistant DPW, but an engineer in the DPW department, I found that the capacity for an engineer in the DPW department could probably capture 75% of what might be done by a coastal resource person or an assistant town planner, particularly if they're dealing with real coastal infrastructure issues, because those are related primarily to engineering in and of itself. In terms of load demand for a coastal shoreline planner, I don't know that it's there. It hasn't been proven to us yet that it is. I'm not against it. I'm just not for it at this time. I think that it could be a viable position, maybe a year or two down the road, but given the more immediacy of need, I think the town would be better served by having the engineering position in the DPW.
Well, just as, if Nat wants to talk about that at all? I mean, I don't know. You know, we've had a couple of things come up that I think Sheila's been at, that, you know, the question is, well, we're going to get a grant for something, but who's going to do it? Is that going to be the, you know, is that something that, you know, planning director can do, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can apply for grants. I don't have the expertise in environmental planning, perhaps for some of them, or in coastal issues. But I think for the most part, I agree with Rainey's logic. I think, you know, the engineer with DPW sort of gives one kind of a broader capacity to do a lot of the DPW things, as well as help out with some of the planning things as well. I'm a planner, but I'm not an engineer. So I think having an engineer could be useful for some of those things. I started here a few months ago in early July, as you probably know. So I'm not familiar with sort of the entire history of the kind of the process by which they felt that an environmental planner is needed. I think it is certainly something that would benefit the town, but given the other sort of priorities and budget realities that the town faces, I think it's understandable, kind of the situation, kind of the decision Rain is making is understandable.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions
I
from
have
Matt?
I have a follow-up question, if that's okay?
Go ahead, Fernando.
Yeah, so if this position's successful, right, that passes has the support of the town, of the residents, right? I'm assuming that we already contract out an engineer to do a lot of this work. Would we see a corresponding reduction in the expense lines for DPW rating?
With an engineer position?
I think he's
Yes.
talking engineer,
Correct.
even though the
Are you referring to the proposed
use
civil
Pat-
engineer?
We use Pat a lot as a consultant, engineering consultant to support DPW. Would we see a corresponding reduction
Sure.
in expenses for an engineering consultant?
We
Sheila's here to answer that question for you, Fernando.
Yeah, so we definitely would. I just took a quick look, for example, Washington Street sidewalks. We've hired Apex, the design consultant, to do construction admin services and part-time project representative. That fee, we're paying them, and that's only 24 hours a week on site overseeing construction. $89,600 just for that one project. So I don't envision this town engineer doing too many designs, maybe some small-scale designs, but the savings would be in, for example, construction administration. They could certainly help with grant writing. Smaller engineering tasks, such as RFP preparation, we wouldn't have to spend $15,000, $20,000 on a consultant to write an RFP for an engineering project. So I think it would more than pay for itself.
With this, can
Go right ahead. Fernando, did that answer your question?
It most certainly did. Thank you, Sheila.
so this engineer be somebody that has some sort of coastal experience?
That would be my hope. Primarily, I'm interested in someone with drainage expertise. My background is in water and sewer, so I could cover that. But I would love to have somebody to complement that with a stormwater background, because we have a lot of drainage issues. When we need to do a drainage design, that gets farmed out. A lot of drainage work can be done on a smaller scale in-house with the right expertise.
So is this someone that can assist with the water department? Because we do have a big laundry list of
Well,
water issues.
and I think I did send Rainey and Mary an email this morning about that, because I was thinking, I would argue at least 25% of that salary, and I plugged in $115,000 for it, could be funded through the Water Enterprise Fund.
Great.
If the town's amenable to that, because we use water consultants frequently on the water side, so that there'd be a savings, not just within the DPW, but in other aspects of town, such as the expertise, hopefully, for coastal resiliency.
Would that position be helpful at all to our current and future PFAS issues?
I would hope so. One of the things that I find challenging here is I'm the only person in the DPW with a technical engineering background. It would be really nice to have another person to just run ideas by or to collaborate with. just, I can't do everything. I'm trying, but I think I'm failing miserably, so.
You are not.
but-
No,
You are not, you are
But
doing
I-
great, but
I think
it's,
it would-
it's
It would be very
unsustainable.
helpful for the community and also succession planning within the DPW to have someone in that position.
Under line 3, Rainey, in your expenses, you had mentioned the increase of $25,000 for professional services, and I believe you said that that was for engineering services. If the town were to approve an engineer, would we not need that $25,000?
No, because it isn't limited to just engineering. That was just one example. We can find a need to hire consultants for all kinds of things. Smaller projects. There's the whole host of issues. Of course, I did not bring my list, and I have a list in the office. Did you want to say something?
No, the example that came up recently with the section 106.
Yeah,
where-
perfect. Right now, the town is collecting, well, we're anticipating collecting, thank you, donations from residents to pursue a section 106 filing if in fact the board decides that it's necessary. We don't have the money for that. We're literally taking donations to fund that.
Can I we drove right into the minutia, and sometimes here we are, we're already nitpicking through it. But I think, for me, it's important to recognize, lessons learned from last year. And I think we're doing that. We've set a prioritized budget, 5A takes into account our priorities. If the town weren't to accept any type of override, 5A it includes the things that we think are most important. So when we now have heard your recommended 5B, how different money-wise is it from your 5B recommended budget for last year? Is it significantly less or?
Oh, from last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's significantly less.
Okay, so already we're finding we're not overreaching, to use a term that I think really did kind of, so I think that, we're already starting out recognizing what the voters had to say last year and coming about this at a very different, cautious, only what is absolutely needed. Some of the things I'll probably push back on, and we'll get down into that minutia, but I just want to recognize that, right off the bat, we're starting off, this conversation really differently, and I think that that's gonna go a long way.
I couldn't agree more, and if I may, it's probably a third of what you saw last year.
Okay, and so to that end, we get the benefit of the Finance Committee that takes deep dives into the individual department budgets. Have they looked and kind of approved, are they in agreement with the recommendations that you're making at this point?
no,
Or are we not there yet?
No, and we did that intentionally, with respect to the Finance Committee.
I just didn't know if it was-
Everybody received this information on the same night. This isn't a joint meeting, but we wanted to make sure we had the right direction from the board before we went any further.
Thank you.
Just one fundamental, last year, correct me if I'm wrong, built into it was a kind of 5-year outlook. Are we essentially, with this 5B, are we essentially working year to year? Is that a best way to describe it?
That's a very good question. This 5B is a one-year outlook only. However, as we advance through this process, and we understand what the full scope of a 5B budget would look like, then the recommendation would certainly be to include some sort of forward-thinking projection into that in order to provide some sustainability. But what the numbers that you're looking at here, these bottom line numbers, do not include that right now.
That's an important point you raised, Mary, because if we can use neighboring communities as an example, Hanover tried for an override, finally did it, got the override, but they're still in financial straits. So I think the last year's approach of a multi-year sustainable budget should continue to be our North Star, so we don't run into that same issue where you're going back to the well year after year.
Right.
I think we can learn from other communities. I won't say mistakes, because I think they did what they had to do. But I think armed with that reality, we can plan accordingly, and I think explain to the voters why that approach would, if we're going to use sanity as a guiding light here, that's something that will foster that goal.
Great.
I had,
Brian, can
Go
you just
ahead, Fernando.
interrupt for a second? Yeah, I concur with that statement. The previous override was a 5-year sustainable budget. Obviously, we need to relook at that, but I think it is important, your statement, we cannot live from year to year. We need to build some sustainability in the budget. And, but anyway, we're starting, and we can't lose sight of that sustainability element. But obviously, in recognition of what happened last year, we don't repeat the same approach again. Thank you.
thank you.
And maybe we could put off that till you have some recommendations as well on sustainability, because the economy is changing every day. And I think there is some benefit to maybe not looking 5 years in the future, but maybe a shorter amount,
Shorter window.
see how this plays out, see how the economy changes, maybe state funding changes. Might be worse, might be better, but if you want me to predict what it's going to look like in 5 years from now,
I will shine my crystal ball
yeah,
as best I can.
yeah, I have no
However,
idea. So-
and it's a fair ask, but I do want to caution that it would be premature for us to do anything until we've had an opportunity to incorporate the school department's requests. in
Agreed.
here.
I think that's why I'd rather put off like that discussion
Yep.
for another day.
Sounds great.
Amy,
We just,
Could I just make one comment?
Of course.
come on up, Betsy. And need you at the microphone so the folks at home can hear you.
Okay, great. Betsy Sullivan, Chair of Finance Committee. I want to just make sure that, that we're clarifying, because this has been a very sad, disturbing process to go through, with the department heads, because they are coming in, and I will tell you, everybody that we've gone to see, because as you know, we all send liaisons out to go visit with the departments and see, there is no department that is adequately staffed. We have department heads that are working every weekend. This isn't just like a real run for the roses to get a big thing done. We're talking to make the deadlines that we are legally obligated. They're working, our salaried employees are working 6 days a week and sometimes partially 7. And it's not sustainable. They will not stay. So we will have, I mean, for the short term, they come into us and they'll say, we're trying to make it work, we're doing the best we can, and they are doing heroes' work. But when you just look at it for the numbers and the staffing is not adequate now. So I just don't want folks to look at 5A and say, oh, well, that'll, it's work now, it'll still work. There is, cracks everywhere, and it cannot continue the way that it has been going on since July 1st. People don't deserve to come and work for us and work 6 days a week, 6.5 days a week, just to meet the bare standard that we have set forward as a community. And I know many of my friends will say, well, it couldn't be that bad. We're still seeing X, or we're still seeing Y, or the dump's still open, or whatever the conversation may be. But it is, I just can't say it enough, it is not sustainable. 5A does not, although it balanced, and I give you all the credit in the world because they've been working 6.5 days a week to get it done. It's just not sustainable over the course of time. We are going to lose our staff. And then when we lose our staff, replacing them is going to add a further burden to what we have to do. So you're right, Amy, we've got to go at this and be really cautious and make it so that our override is something that the community can understand and support. Because if we do another 5A, it is going to be a real problem in going into the next year. Sorry, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but you've got to, we're seeing this and we're just can't believe it. So, and we also can't believe the dedication of the people that we have working for us who don't say, I'm punching out now." What they're doing is saying, this town expects X and I'll stay extra and I'll get it done. And, that's unbelievable. They're heroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Well said.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to touch a little bit on, we just, the other night, had a presentation about Care Solace. And I listened, I didn't know anything about it, but it was repeated to us over and over that there was no cost to the town for this, no cost. There was no discussion of a future cost to the town. So I guess shame on me. It's always, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't true.
I think it's just a pilot program right now.
And
If-
someone
if we-
donated.
If we want to keep it, then it would go into, as a potential budget item.
Yeah, which it looks like there's a line item in here to include it. So I think that, it's, I'm not, we haven't had it before. I don't know what we're missing or what we're gaining at this point. I think it's a little bit premature to start thinking about funding. I guess, again, as I'm trying to look at this through the eyes of the voters and making sure that we not bite off more than we can chew. I think it's programs like that I feel like, maybe this isn't the right time to fund. So I guess I'd like to hear about, what.
Sure.
Sure.
Is Joanne
And-
out there?
Yep.
Perfect.
And just while Joanne's coming to the microphone, just to that point, Amy, since the program has just recently rolled out and we know that this budget is still under construction, I think we'll have a good opportunity to have, 3-4 months worth of experience with the program and see how well it has been absorbed or introduced into the community in order to make a final decision for the final budget. But
Yeah.
do you
so
want to speak
just-
to the?
Yeah,
And
sure.
and
So
if,
we,
one thing, if I may clarify, this $29,000 that we're talking about, it's for 3 components, all of which are
right,
different.
and not, it's only 10,000 for Care Solace. The other
Yeah.
is for training and also our food service budget.
Right.
So that equals the whole 29,000. So as you know, Peter Holden was at the select board meeting last week sharing information about Care Solace. It's a program that is being utilized by the school, and we're hoping to provide the entire town support with mental health. It is something that we've seen on the rise since COVID, and it's been well received in other communities that the whole community has embraced it. Our Friends organization were so supportive of it, they said they would give us the $10,000 to get it up and running. Part of the task force that's doing the livable Duxbury work under Health and Community Services is now meeting with various groups in the town so everybody knows about what's happening, and that we're going to have a button on every town department, so if someone needs mental health services, it's not hard to find, it's easy to find. Right now, Peter Holden just left the Duxbury Facts, and we have about 8 different community groups that he will be visiting with in the next month. So our goal really, as the task force, is to get the word out so that the community utilizes this service. So like Mary said, we're 6 days in, but we're really committed to getting the word out to make sure residents have that service if they need it.
Thank you, Joan. Can I follow up on?
Yeah, I have a question too. You go right
Are you
ahead.
going to do the Care Solace or the?
I had a
food
Care
service?
Solace question.
Oh, go ahead.
Could that $10,000, are there any opportunities with the state for grant funding for mental health services? It's
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of writing grants as well, so
Yeah.
hopefully that could be a possibility, but I wanted to make sure I had a placeholder in the budget.
Yeah.
So if there was, if we did get grant funding, we would reduce that.
we also have that settlement from the
So there could be a funding opportunity for part of the program. So the town is a recipient of opioid funding,
Right, that
settlement
settlement,
funding.
yeah.
There are requirements on how you can use that funding, what is eligible and what is not. Given that this Care Solace program, a component of it is designed and intended to help people with substance abuse issues. To the extent that the program is utilized for that, we could absolutely offset it with the opioid funding. But to the extent that that program is for other general mental health, it wouldn't necessarily qualify under the opioid category.
Before you ask the question on the other issue, Joanne, I just have one question. Maybe the schools are using Care Solace or have been.
Yeah.
So I might ask you to address this as well, just in terms of your experience. And I know just 6 days in.
Yep.
No metrics really, and it's all confidential. It's not like we're looking at anybody's
Right.
data. But, and I realize Care Solace is not for acute episodes, so it's not like the suicide hotline or that sort of thing.
No, we
but-
would, they would get referred
Right.
to that.
Where I'm going with this is, are there any metrics or even anecdotal information that would help us understand that the program helps avoid
I can
emergency
get that.
services? So like,
Sure.
you know, that maybe Chief Reardon or Chief Carbone wouldn't get as many calls, for example, if this were
So
used
all-
100% or that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
already, so we have these little business cards, and we've already shared them with fire and police, and we'll get them out to every department. So if someone comes upon someone needing help, this is another tool in their toolbox. So our goal is really to work with all departments to make sure they have that support.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious, maybe it's an unanswerable question, but if there's some way to maybe quantify the time savings.
Yeah, I can ask Care Solace and their team that specific question and get back to you on that.
Would the school department like to raise any issue or address Care Solace at all? How it's been beneficial to the schools? Maybe how it's translatable to the greater town? Superintendent Klingeman?
Hi, everyone. Danielle Klingeman, Superintendent. We've had great success with Care Solace, and they do give you monthly data analytic reports to see the members of our school community that are accessing the service, which allows our families to reach out to obtain mental health counseling support, and it makes the connection with someone, a therapist that's accepting patients. And so it has eliminated that month lag time between someone having a mental health crisis and being able to find support. And so it's a great company in terms of the data and analytics, but it's probably too new to you to have received any of those yet. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add. Dr. Wilcox was looking up some information in case you wanted to ask us.
I'll just share that with you.
Okay. Let's see what this is going to be. Oh, and it breaks things down into the categories of the mental health supports that people are seeking, and it gives you information about the insurance companies that they're making connections with, the providers that they're referring patients to, and it also measures substance abuse. So that's why we have been curious to see if any of the opioid funding would potentially be a funding source. So we've had good success with the program, and I think that's why the senior center is also looking to supplement for the other members of our community to be able to access this. So we are able to have all of our students and all of our staff with our school-based program access this resource, and so I think this would extend to other members of the community that are not in the school community.
Yeah, it
Great.
would cover the remaining part of the community that isn't covered by the schools.
Right, so not just seniors
No.
in town, it would be everybody.
Everybody else.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Dr. Klingeman.
Thank you.
Hey, you had another question for Senior Center.
I do, Joanne.
Yep.
I know last year I don't know whether this is different or it looks the same, it sounds the same.
Sure.
You're looking to expand.
Yep, a part-time home-delivered meals manager position.
But I
So,
believe I asked the question last year, and I'm
Yep.
going to ask it again.
Sure.
The revenues that are brought in, the payments that are received for these meals.
they go to the general fund. So
they
last year,
cover this
our
cost?
line item budget for food was $80,000, and we returned $112,585 to the general fund.
So this cost will get reimbursed
Yes.
through the revenues
Yes.
generated from the sale of this food?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, Joanne.
Joanne, does that factor in that you're going from part-time to full-time? So that's going to be a benefit.
It would be a
So-
benefit position.
So does that factor in the cost of the benefits?
That specific line item does not. The benefits would be covered under the health insurance line item.
But I guess my overall question is, does the money coming in to cover the cost of this, is that going to
It covers
be
the
enough
food
to
and food
cover
supplies.
So it won't cover the salary.
Depending on whether this person participates in the benefit program. If they do, then depending on the type of plan they enroll in, it may or may not intrinsically cover the cost of that. But this position is also for, and Joanne, would you mind speaking to it, for the home delivered meals component of the program, which is much more than a DoorDash.
Sure. So in this past year, home delivered meals delivered 13,269 meals to the community. That's 51% of the meals that we prepare. It's more than just a meal. It is also a wellness check. So probably would say fire and police going out to the homes. But it's also a little bit of socialization. For many people who are homebound, this might be the only visit they have all during the day. So just to let you know, this program started back in 2003, and we had a part-time person doing the job. The first year we delivered just under 3,000 meals with a 19-hour position, and now we're doing over 13,000 meals. So at this point, we're at the breaking point, and we really need to increase this position to continue providing this really valuable service to the community.
Thank you, and thanks for what you do.
Other questions?
Mike, I did not attend Thursday night's meeting. Do you mind giving us like a short understanding of what these vendor increases are and what this new layer of cybersecurity, if you could tell us? I don't know if,
Yeah.
I don't want to give a roadmap to.
For sure,
next-
for sure. So that's the 5A components. There's two pieces. Across the
the 5A.
board, in general, we're looking at about a 5% increase in software as a service.
Yeah,
There's some vendors that are much more, right? Like VMware, as an example, is a 100% increase. So we're really doing our best to get information from the vendors to figure out what we're looking at for next fiscal year, and then to also look at trends over time, and then using that information to kind of create that increased piece. So
and that's
the
part of your
first-
5A budget,
yes.
just to meet operational needs.
Yes.
With the vendor increases.
Yep, just keep the lights on.
Now, what's this extra layer?
So the extra layer, the 5B piece, it's a SIM component, which is security information and event monitoring. So there's really two pieces to that ask. The first piece is it's a critical component, I would say, to like our cybersecurity posture as a whole. The average cost of a breach or an incident in 2025 is, I think it's 10.2 million was the cost. I could probably provide a list of 12 municipalities in the state that have seen issues that have been north of $1 million. So we did seek, and I actually looked at a grant to fund the implementation of that in the first year, which we were able to secure. So this would be to then take that program past the first grant, the first year, and create sustainability with it. So there's really three pieces to it, without divulging all the cyber or the security secrets that we really shouldn't discuss. It's log correlation, right? Taking all of our logs, putting them in one place. And then it's a technology called extended detect and response, which then takes all of that data and looks at telemetry between it. So if there's, if you, Mike, were to log in California and 5 minutes later you log in here in Duxbury, that's going to send up a flag. If you try to log into the server and, it's a poor password, that's going to send up a flag. And it takes all that information and puts it together. So if you were to look at, not to get too deep into it, but if you were to look at the top 10 of a security program, this security information event management, along with the extended detect and response, fall right in the middle, probably like numbers 4 and 5. We have pieces of them, but we're not doing enough, in my opinion.
Okay. Now, at least the part I can see at work, is part education with the other department heads and with the employees in general about what to do and what not to do. Is that part of your grant, and has that been implemented in this past year?
So no, and I would actually say that if we were to look at that theoretical top 10 list, that's number 1 on the list.
Right.
People are our biggest vulnerability and our vector of kind of compromise.
Right.
So we are fortunate enough to obtain a grant through the state of Massachusetts for that every year. We will continue to apply for it, and we've received it the last, I want to say 4+ years. I've also had increased support from our town manager and our superintendent of schools in getting the staff to complete those those trainings. So, no, I did the math as well. That's about a $24,000 cost that we get from the state every year as well.
So you get that from the state?
We get that in addition. That's not included in this number, but it is the most important piece.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Tell me how we're leveraging resources from the county.
Specifically,
Plymouth County has a program with, I think it's Bridgewater State, offering resources to communities in the county. Are we taking it, are those worth taking advantage of? In other words, is it something we'd use, whatever those resources are? Are we using them, and how do they compare with best practices?
yeah, so my knowledge of what we've utilized Plymouth County for, specifically when we talk about Bridgewater and the cyber range that they've stood up. I know our first year of EDR, which is, you can think of it like next generation antivirus, Plymouth County paid 50% of that. So in year 2, which is this year, we had to account for that and pay 100% of it, which we're getting through another third party that also provides security operations center services and managed detect and response. So is there more we could leverage through Plymouth County? Probably. You know, we continue to look at that, my team and myself, but I think that we've done a really good job up until this point, starting to use those resources that are there, getting those discounts that are available. I don't know if that answers the question.
Can I just add something real quick on that?
Please.
Plymouth County set up that program that you're referring to using ARPA funding. And now that ARPA funding has expired, they are no longer able to continue with that program.
That's a good point.
All right, thank you for that clarification, that's important. And just in terms of going forward generally, is your budget sufficient to number one, maintain what we have in terms of public-facing accessibility? I don't mean accessibility in terms of screen readers, but I mean in terms of folks being able to pay their bills, to get information, so the basic blocking and tackling of our website, which I appreciate that we have, although I don't know if anybody would disagree with me if I said there's probably room for improvement there.
I would agree.
Are we able to maintain what we have, but do you have enough headroom in, well, maybe not 5A, but in the 5B budget, to keep in mind maybe new technologies as they come along? I'm thinking, you know, Gen AI is what everybody's talking about these days. I know municipalities are starting to, I won't say play around with it because it's not a game, but experiment with how that might be able to supplement opportunities to engage with the public, either through a bot answering questions, FAQs, or pushing out information, that sort of thing. So I know we're thinking year to year for purposes of fiscal year, but in terms of services and accessibility we provide to our residents, I want to make sure, given that, you know, the website's really the front door of the town, that that we, through you and your team, are thinking about ways that we might be able to improve what we have, and whether we have the capacity to do that with these numbers.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So I will say the website is in need of a change, and we're actually in the process of doing that right now. The content management system on the back side of the site is so old that the vendor has decided to upgrade us for free. So we're doing that.
We're a charity now.
That's in the budget. That's in the budget.
Yes, it's a good thing. I think a lot of those third-party services, like City Hall Systems and a few others, are not directly part of our site. They're really like a third party that we have an agreement with. So I think it really becomes our job to ensure that, you know, those are the best products out there, including the website, and that they're secure, and, you know, and that we have agreements with those folks to ensure that citizens of the town are able to use them, and they're easy and they work. So yes, I think to go back to the beginning, we will be able to continue with the level of service that we have. Does it include, you know, an AI overhaul for all of those pieces? Not that that was the question, but no. But I think as time goes on, yeah, we'll have the ability to continue to evaluate. But yes, we can continue the level of service that we have right now, without anything that's going to be revolutionary, I suppose.
That's helpful, and my point wasn't necessarily shiny object, but just to make sure that you've got capacity, given that the technology is changing so quickly.
For sure.
You don't have to wait, you know, whole fiscal year before you can take advantage of something.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I don't believe that's the case. I think we'll be okay for next fiscal.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any other questions for Mike?
No.
Okay,
No,
great.
thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Other questions on 5B?
Yes,
Amy?
I'm hoping that maybe Joanne can think about if the full-time position for the Meals on Wheels person or the food deliverer, maybe that could be satisfied through a part-time, and you don't have to think about it now, answer now, and that would be great. I was hoping we could talk about the beat jobs.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Let's,
Fire away. This is it.
Looking kind of at the total picture of the beach, and again, it's a revenue source and it's an expense. Can we get an overall number as to last year, how much the beach brought in comparison to how much the beach cost us?
Let me see if I can do that from here while we have Steve talk about the position in the 5B, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you.
That's okay.
And Steve, while you're walking up, if you could delineate the position from this escort thing, because I think the escort piece is, I might be the only person in the, well, there's a couple other people in the room that might want to talk about overseeing access, but it's a longer conversation. I think the assistant beach manager is probably
Sure. Is Oversand Access an interest of yours?
a little bit.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware. So basically,
He's fresh.
is the question regarding the position that we requested last year that didn't
The
come
same
through?
position.
Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, that's, we talked about burnout, which Betsy very well said, and the beach department is definitely that. I don't think it's sustainable for our one full-time person to continue, with the assistance of the other full-time people in the department, to do those, especially in the summer, the 7 days a week. It's tough. It also limits, unfortunately, the Oversand access, because when opportunities come, we don't always have the staffing out there that we need. So if, adding this person, one, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Succession plan. And the current beach manager is, and I think everyone that's worked with him, and I know you have, and Rainey is one of a kind for us right now. And for an assistant beach ops manager to work and learn under him would be invaluable. So yeah, it's a position that just, there's so many different angles that position would benefit us for. If there's any specific questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just the obvious question is that the beach is jamming from, May to October. For an assistant job, you have some tremendous job hiring. A lot of older folks and people that have jobs during the school year and then take on a job for the summer. Would there be an idea of a part-time, like a May to September beach assistant as opposed to a full year beach assistant?
Well, yeah, I know. That was something that's been brought up before. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that will not recruit the candidate I think we're looking for this position. This position will have to attend state meetings, federal meetings, DBR meetings, things like that. I think the position that would be that part-time would really just be give us more money for part-time seasonal and pay someone extra to do more. It's not really what we're looking for. And I don't know what the trend will be. If you looked at my 5A request, the winters now may not be quiet. Last winter wasn't. We went $22,000 in unexpected part-time salaries because of the snowy owl season. And if that's going to become a norm, we could save money on that part-time, because the way we would stagger, I would stagger our current beach ops manager with the assistant, we would save on that a little bit too. But I do understand, sure, I don't disagree that, March to the end of October is traditionally busier, and even with the owls, it still is. But I just don't think we recruit the person we're looking for if that's the position. Anything else?
Yeah. Do you want me to answer your question, Amy? So for fiscal year '25, which is the fiscal year we just ended, the beach took in $1.3 million in revenue, but it cost us $1.4 and some change to operate it. So it operated at a net deficit of $129,000.
And does that include the lease?
It does include the lease at $1 million. And just for clarity's sake, the beach lease has been at $1 million for a couple of years and is in the FY27 budget at $1 million.
Thank you.
Okay.
All set.
Um,
Thank
you, Steve.
Before you go, Steve, maybe, sorry.
Tried.
It's a small amount, but I'm looking at the escorting coverage. Can you tell me an idea of how much that was actually utilized last season?
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
There were some opportunities, not for the amount of vehicles we found feasible to run it with. It takes quite a few extra staffing members to be out there, and quite frankly, when the override did not pass last year, we knew it was going to be really tough to try to run that on top of, that was without even predicting the winter with the snowy owls, so the budget wasn't there to do it. Opportunities did come. DBRs, we communicate with them very well. They let us know when the opportunities were there, but we needed to pick a number that made it worth it to continue to go over budget, and the number never hit high enough for that amount of cars. Like, we weren't going to do it for 15 or 20 cars. It would just create chaos and more unhappy people than happy people. So no, we weren't able to, and I would say the same. That's why, and Mike, I'm sorry I didn't answer your question, the separation, the escorting money would be the required staffing based on X amount of opportunities to escort. That's what we, when Artie ran the numbers, that's the number we came up with. We think we would need to staff that properly.
Okay, so this amount, this $21,960 for part-time staff, which would, according to this anyhow, at least partially cover escorting coverage, but also, beach closures. Is that, it seems like that's sort of has a negligible value compared to some of these other things. So what else, what does the staff need to do for beach closures that's wouldn't?
Well, I think the way
otherwise
that's written is we have beach closures, then escorting would become available if we had that money. There's not money being charged for the beach being closed. I think that's just the way it's written there.
That's correct. That, when it says closure, if we close and we have the ability to escort, that's what it would cost us. If it's closed, it's closed. Pretty
So-
cheap to close the beach, but it's expensive to close it with escorting.
So that $21,960 is only really for escorting,
Pretty much.
for,
That's what we would need based on the opportunities we think we would get to escort.
And
If there's 8 to 10 opportunities, we might be able to do it for that amount of money.
and they've only got a small it's only been in the permit for, what, a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they only know what last year looked like.
doesn't seem worth it to me.
And some of it's practical, to your point. Some of it may, who knows? It was another arrow available. But the practical end of this is, like, say, an opportunity. He's not saying we passed on it. They considered them. Say it was a July Saturday, and he could put 8 cars out over in that little spot over there. Where do you stage 8 cars in a parking lot that's so full that it's backed up onto the bridge?
So I
You
just
just
don't,
can't.
I
So,
just don't
yeah.
think that that money, that inclusion is worth it.
And we just don't know.
I
We
feel-
won't know, for.
I know that yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's still, again, in face of, what we're facing, every dime matters. And I struggle with this, it's $104,000, almost $105,000 more a year moving forward if we're to approve this, or if town meetings to approve this. And that basically doubles, almost doubles the amount of the loss that we're losing $129,000 in this, adds another 105 onto how much we're losing on the beach. That's a big hit.
Well, like I said, not to speak to the escorting, because if escorting opportunities never came up, we wouldn't touch that money, so that money would go back. We wouldn't need to use that. It would, you have to budget for it in case you want to try to use it. The full-time position, however, I believe would cut into that loss because we wouldn't need as many part-time staff if we had a full-time coverage out there. That would, the full-time person would save us on some part-time hours.
Yeah, but then it's a, benefit position, so it is an expensive undertaking every time we hire a full-time position. so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could tell you that with the hire of Artie, and I know it wasn't an added position, but having a quality beach director out there who's working year-round with all these, putting out all these fires, working with our residents to provide a great product is improving our ability to get people out on the beach and sell stickers. It's our best, it's one of our best assets in the town here, and having quality employees is really important. That's why I wanted to acknowledge it. I mean, you meet these folks out there. He's got professional people out there that are smiling, that are helping people out there, and that's, I think, going to the reason we're saving this. It's part of the big picture of providing an important resource to our community.
Yeah, and as much as I talk about the snowy owl season that we couldn't have predicted cost us about $22,000 in part-time staff, it also generated $37,000 more dollars than we'd ever sold in off-season stickers as well. So it was kind of a net positive of about $15,000 for that season.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
I have a question. Chip, you don't need to get up, but I think this is a question maybe, Mary, for you. For the crematory, maintenance and repairs in the 5B budget, since it's maintenance and repairs, not capital, why wouldn't we put that in the 5A regular budget as opposed to the override budget?
That was Chip's recommendation when he put his budget together.
All right, maybe you do have to get up, Chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So we're talking about $11,500 for maintenance and repairs of the retorts.
We have 25,000 in a line item now, and it used to be 36,000, and it got dropped down, and I'm just asking for that 11,000 back.
Okay.
All right, I see what you're
Restore
saying.
to pre-funding, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. So, all right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
And we'll see you at the fee increase hearing? All right,
He's a perennial, isn't he?
all right. Any other questions on 5B? I want to be sensitive to all the town folks who have been here since whatever this morning, and it's now 8:30 on Monday evening, and they get to do the same thing tomorrow. So I want to get folks home, if we can do that. Any other questions on 5B? Any other presentation on 5B? So anything you want to tell us that we haven't asked?
No?
No, if you're set, that's what we're going to move forward with then.
Okay. Any department heads want to say anything to us? We're happy to listen. All right.
I appreciate you taking the time and for your feedback. Thank you. It means a lot.
And
Important.
Thank you all very much
Yeah.
for coming out tonight. and
Exactly.
helping.
Absolutely. Thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
We still have additional business.
We do?
We have some minutes. Probably take care of that. No, Fernando's gone.
I think that's it. Just minutes.
Just do it among ourselves.
We're going to do the minutes, Nancy.
We have some minutes. Right.
Do we want to do it while people are...
All right, we have some executive session minutes from October 6th and October 10th. May I have some motions?
I move to approve the October 6th, 25 Select Board Executive Session minutes B, regarding non-union personnel town manager with the contents to be
Released.
released. Thank you.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 4-0. Minutes of October 10th, executive session.
I was going to say revealed, but I knew that wasn't quite right. I move to approve the 10/10/25 Select Board Executive Session minutes regarding non-union personnel town manager with the contents to be released.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 4-0. Rainey, do you and Mary have anything else before we adjourn?
No, I'm good, thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate your
Move to
time.
adjourn.
Thank you for your hard work.
We have a motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.